Hello and welcome back. We're here today to talk about this exciting new headphone from Meze Audio, the Lyric 2. Numeral 2? Second generation? Technically, Meze is just calling this the Lyric. Just that, it is just a direct replacement for the original popular Lyric closed-back planar magnetic headphone.
We're going to do something a little different today for a headphone review. I'm joined by Moon Audio CEO and founder Drew Baird, and we're going to have a casual sit-down fireside chat about the new Lyric. What's new? What's different? What's the same? Well, let's get to it.
And this is Ricky, in case you didn't know that.
So when the original Lyric came out, we did 2 reviews, right? Drew had his first impressions about the headphone, going over some of the basics of that, at the time, brand new headphone line from Meze Audio. It's still one of our favorite headphones, both sonically and aesthetically, at Moon Audio. So my first question is, well, what's in the box?
So, very nice, we'll call this fake leather. I don't think it's real leather up here, but it looks like leather. It's a really nice box. It's better than most other brands provide with their headphones. And so we've got a carrying case in here. Let me get this out, and I'm gonna take the box off the table because the box is a little cumbersome.
It's a nice box.
So the first thing we notice is, while these are portable headphones, this case is not small, right? But I think it's still thin enough that you can put it in a bag, and it's a hardened case, so it's definitely gonna really protect your headphones. So, kudos, I really like it.
Yeah.
There's some nice velour inside, so this is going to protect your headphones from getting scuffed up and scratched. I know we've got a cheaper case we sell for about 25 bucks. It doesn't have this in there, so a little more care has to be taken about scuffing your really nice headphones like these.
Especially if they're wood, yeah.
So it comes with a nice little pouch here that has the airline adapter with the 2 little 3.5s for airline audio, and then a 1/4-inch adapter for the cables that come with the headphones. It'll come with 2 cables, so this is really cool. We've got more of a basic stock cable here. That's in a 10-foot length. It's got the 3.5 for the amplifier connection, thus why the 1/4-inch adapter. And the Lyric uses the connection on the headphone side. You get a bonus. They are providing one of their higher quality copper braided cables. And this is, if I remember right, what is it? A 1.3 meter PCUHD. I can't remember all the acronyms, so I gotta look at the paper for that one. It's basically an oxygen-free copper. It's 4 nines. It's not as high quality as the copper we use in our Dragon lines, which is 7N purity. But this is a good cable and a nice bonus because there's no additional cost for it. It's got the 4.4 millimeter TRS balance connector, which is really becoming more of the norm for all of the portable stuff and even a lot of home stuff. I hope that really that connector takes over the entire marketplace.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've got our headphones and a little gel pack that prevents any kind of humidity from getting in here and causing any kind of issues. Yeah. Hopefully you don't live in that humid of an environment. Right. But good quality stuff that comes with it.
So let's talk about the sound signature right off the bat. What's different?
So it's interesting, and I'm going to go back to a little bit of history of the other headphones from Meze. So I've noticed as we've moved down the line with new products with these guys, the dramatical differences between headphones is actually getting a little bit smaller. Yeah. Why is that? Because actually the dramatic improvements between like the original Empyrean and then the next that was to come out was the Elite were pretty substantial. Yep. I mean, they're really figuring out what they're doing at Meze. And so then we got the Empyrean 2, which I thought was a pretty good jump over the original Empyrean as well. But now with the Lyric, and the original Lyric sort of came out in the middle of all of these headphones. So, that got some of the newer technology as Meze was learning their engineering and improving things and so forth. So there isn't as dramatic of a difference between the 2 Lyrics, but there's definitely improvements, right? They're really sort of honing in on the micro dynamics and stuff like that. I think we both really agree the sound staging probably was the biggest difference between the original one and the second one. I'd say everything is more, clearer definition between the instruments and so forth, where this is a wider soundstage. It's, obviously with headphones, we're not going to get the sort of same presentation with speakers out in front of us, but this is definitely wider outside of sort of what's going on in my head. Whereas the original Lyric, it felt like everything, not, the instruments and everything were sort of together in my head, if you will, right? Yeah. So we're really getting much better separation, a better soundstage. Things are becoming cleaner. I think these are more musical without really getting a lot warmer than the original, but they're definitely more musical, and we'll talk about some of that in the design aspects in the next questions.
That is,
But great sounding headphone, but not as big of a change because They've improved so many things in their technology. What do you think about?
Yeah,
what have you heard?
I think, like you said, it's incremental. In my review, I kind of describe it more as a refined sound.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely heard a lot more detailing in the mids. You know, these are really going to shine with like vocal genres, and we'll talk about music selection later. Like Drew said, a little warmer response. You know, you definitely hear a little more in the lower frequencies. There's some more rumble there, but definition. But overall, just a nice refined sound on what was otherwise, you know, an already outstanding sounding headphone.
Very good headphone.
So
yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, you know, like the difference between like the original Empyrean and the Empyrean 2. I mean, you might as well think they're totally different headphones because they don't sound anything alike in my views, you know. So here we're still sort of in the same sort of sound signature, but yeah, great improvement.
But yeah, that's interesting because to your point, you know, you had the original Empyrean on the super warm side, but you find with like the Empyrean 2, with the Lyric 2, even with the Elite, you know, Meze is finding their sound that appeals to more listeners, and it's a great sound overall. You know, I think a lot of people are going to love it. So what is this new QWRM, and what does it do for the sound of the Lyric 2?
Yeah, so I posed this exact same question on Meze. I'm going to read from a piece of paper because they quoted me and I don't want to botch their quote. So essentially what QWRM stands for is Quarter Wavelength Resonator Mask. And essentially they said, as we explored ways to enhance the audio quality of the Lyric, we recognized an opportunity within the driver frame design. QWRM widely improved in various domains from musical instruments and concert halls to high-performance car exhaust systems and aircraft noise reduction solutions, emerged as a valuable tool for influencing the surrounding sound environment. Leveraging the potential of this straightforward yet impactful concept, we ingeniously incorporated a meticulous crafted metal mask onto the specific openings in the driver. This approach allowed us to finely tune the upper portion of the frequency spectrum to suit our desired audio profile. So the cool thing about the Lyric 2 is you can take the ear pads off just like the other Mezes. And I'm not quite sure why the Lyric 1 you couldn't do this with. But so this gave us the opportunity to really look at the driver. Unfortunately, they did put a security screw on here, so I couldn't take the driver off. I wanted to see what was going on inside the enclosure itself. But here is the QWRM right here, okay? And essentially what this is every material has a resonance frequency, whether it be plastic, wood, metal, etc. So this device is tuned to a certain resonance frequency. And it acts as a dampener, if you will, for the driver. In fact, I think I'll ask you at the end of this to talk a little more about the driver design because you know this better than anybody here because you've gone over it. But essentially, let's think of this driver as a two-way design, and the high frequencies are coming from the top side. And so this is where that plate is put. And it's specifically put in a specific area that obviously when these are on your head, there are different angles where different frequencies are hitting your ear canals, right? And essentially what this driver is doing, getting back to the resonance frequencies, so it's picking up on certain frequencies that are coming off the driver. And the great thing about a planar magnetic driver is it's flat, okay? And so this panel is flat. And so when a frequency hits this panel, it essentially creates a reverse 180-degree bounce off or reflection. And essentially what that does is that cancels out that frequency. Now you may want to say that, well, I don't want to get rid of any frequencies, but you're still getting some of that frequency response from outside of that plate right there. But what that's doing, and I wish they would have had this back in the day when Ultrasone came out with the Edition 10, this headphone had a crazy sibilance issue, right? If you go back and watch Tile, he's from Headroom, and he did a video and his ears were bleeding when he was listening to this headphone. It was a great headphone, except for that shrill. If they would have had this technology back then, they would have solved the issue of that sibilance issue on that headphone, and it probably would have sold like gangbusters, because everything else about the headphone was great. Fantastic. But once you got that spike, you were like, I'm done with it. So essentially, this is a way to tune this driver. It's very much like getting rid of room nodes in your room with loudspeakers, right? Certain frequencies are going to bounce around in the room and they become a problem. And so you try and cancel out those frequencies in your room. They're essentially doing that, and think of this as your room, right? It's between your ear and the driver. And so we're taming peaks. and we're improving and tuning the sound of the driver. So it may look like a simple plate, but it's really effectively doing a whole lot of stuff to really improve the sound. I don't know if there's also a plate on the back side. You'll notice that on the front side of the cup, they have this port that they had on the same thing on the previous design, but I'm not really sure how this is influenced with that plate, because I'm not, like I said, I can't get into here and see if there's one on the back side. It's a good question for them. Hopefully I'll get to talk to them at Axpone a little more about the intricacies of the design, and we'll find out more about that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I've grown to really appreciate about Meze is, their driver design. It's a unique driver design only to Meze. You won't find anything like it anywhere else. They work with Renaro ISOdynamics, and they've developed what is known as the ISOdynamic hybrid array driver. And essentially, it's a planar magnetic driver, but it has two independent coils on it. It has the switchback coil on top, which is great at reproducing lower end frequencies. And then you have the spiral coil at the bottom of the driver, which is superb at recreating the mids and the highs. Yeah. So you have these two individual coils that are amazing at accurately reproducing sounds like no other driver can. Yeah. And it's great for texturing, it's great for soundstage, it's great for accuracy, imaging. Anyone that hasn't heard it before is just going to be blown away by it. Yeah. So this is actually a really good segue. We just talked about what's different driver design-wise in the Lyric 2. How does that impact overall efficiency of the driver?
So the impedance of the driver is actually doubled. So the original was 30 ohms. We're now at 61 ohms. But at this level, we're still a very easy to drive, efficient headphone. It's still meant for portable use. The difference in gain between the two headphones wasn't very dramatic. I use the Dragon Inspire to do all of my reviewing of the headphones, going back and forth. I had to adjust the volume control, and this is a stepped attenuator, so it made things nice and easy. So I had to go 2 clicks higher with the Lyric 2, but we're still staying way below the volume control, even coming close to 12 o'clock on this amp. That amp's got about 1.5 watts of power, so I've got plenty of volume and gain at, let's say maybe it was at, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 with the original Lyric, and then maybe 11:30 with the Lyric 2. So very easy to drive. Yeah. Obviously, very much designed to be a portable headphone. Like I've always said with planar magnetic, the more power you can throw at it, the better it's going to excel. So, unless you've got an uber powerful portable rig, a home headphone amp like the Inspire is really going to do it justice. So.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience in my review, my testing session. I paired it with the TEAC UD701N and found the same thing. I had to turn it up just a couple notches to get about the same volume level as the original Lyric. So, but I also paired it with Estelle & Kern DAP, and it performed, wonderfully. So it's definitely still a very great option for portable headphone listening, for sure.
And even driving directly off of your computer.
Yeah. So one thing people are definitely going to notice right off the bat is the design is pretty much the same. Is this a good thing? I mean, they say if it ain't broke, is that apply here?
One of the great things about Meze audio headphones is without a doubt the comfort. I'm sure you'll agree, the Empyreans and the Elites, when you've got them on your head, you can almost look like Princess Leia. So they are a bit large and funny looking if if you're walking down the street with them. These are a little bit smaller and compact. Still not a small Sony or Sennheiser wireless headphone size and portability. But hey, at the end of the day, the sound is much more important to me. I don't really care what I look like when I'm wearing a headphone, as long as it's incredibly comfortable and the sound is stellar. I'm happy, right? All of these Meze headphones are super comfortable, and the pads are nice and squishy, and they just, I don't get too hot with the leatherettes and the velour. They have lots of different ear pad options. Very comfortable. There's nothing worse than having a headphone that is incredibly good sounding, but I can't wear it for more than 5 minutes, right?
For sure.
Listening fatigue is real, not just from the sound of the drivers, but the weight of the headphones. And these are, I'd say in the average weight category, but the way it's balanced on the head with the ergonomics of the design of the headband is first rate. So comfort is wonderful.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. One thing that I do want to point out about the Meze design is these ear cups articulate all the way around. So it's literally going to be able to fit any size or shape of head. Yeah. So talking about this sound signature, one thing off the bat you'll notice are the wooden ear cups. What does that do for the sound signature? It's certainly a departure from the original kind of leatherette covering.
Well, what we do know is, like I said earlier, all materials have a different resonance frequencies: wood, plastic, metal, etc. And we know that different materials will change the sound characteristics of the headphones. We know this particularly well from the Grado Labs headphones because they go from plastic to wood to metal cups. Right. And they dramatically change the, if we will, the house sound signature of each one of these headphones. They're very different between the plastic, wood, and metals. So the bad news is, like I said with the security bolt here, I can't open this up, and so I don't know if this wood cup goes all the way through to the back plane of the driver. Right. So I'm not sure if this is an overlay over an internal chamber, and the same can be said from the original Lyrics, which we've got a leather on the outside. I would imagine on the leather, there's a material between this and the back plate, but I'm not sure if there's one more layer of material between it and the drivers. But again, this whole cup is going to resonate because it is a closed back design. Right. It does have a port, but you're still going to get some resonant frequencies coming off of the materials of the headphones. So there should be some sort of slight, although it might be very marginal, if this is an exterior fascia, if you will, like the siding of your house, and doesn't have direct relationship to the back wave of the signature, the frequencies of the driver. So I can't perfectly answer that until I can actually get inside and see what's going on, but I would imagine that, a lot of the tuning goes inside the cup itself. So I'm sure, and that's part of the reason they've got the security lock, because they don't really want to know what the special sauce is in here in terms of what materials they are using to dampen the back waves before it gets to the port and so forth. So I don't have a perfect answer, but we do know that different materials can change the sound. So
subjectively speaking, I definitely heard a difference in added airiness, a little more soundstage, more space. Yeah. But again, I don't know if that's, like you said, the resonance.
That could be all the driver. That could be the QWRM.
The overall tuning. We don't know.
Who knows? Anyway, it's a good question that hopefully we're going to find out when we go to Axpona. So
yeah, sounds good. So Drew, I'm going to ask a stupid question. Are the cables detachable, and what connectors do they use?
So in line with the original Lyric, they're using the 3.5 millimeter connector so that they can be detachable. The reason they're using the 3.5 over the locking 3-pin XLR that the Empyrean and Elite uses is to get the profile a little bit shallower, right? We want these to be as small as possible to be used for portable uses. So the 3.5 millimeter locks in really tight. You heard that snap, right? I can jiggle on this and it does not come out very easily. It is rock solid, tight locking mechanism inside, which is not true of a lot of headphones out there. So I'm okay with the 3.5. I wish it was consistent between the headphones, but there's a reason for it to be portable, smaller, a connection point.
That being said, what is our Dragon cable recommendation for the Lyric 2?
Yeah, so as I've always said, there is no right or wrong to any of this. You can go with any one of our cables to change the tonality as you see fit. When I use the Dragon Inspire, the tubes that I choose in that amp were pretty much on the neutral side, and because I wanted to figure out, from a neutral standpoint, which way am I going to go in terms of cables. I really gravitated towards the Black Dragon. This is, like I said, it's not an overly warm headphone, but it is warm, it's smooth, it's musical, so I want to stay in line with that, so I went with the Black Dragon. It's got the characteristics of warmth and smoothness. It's got good bottom end weight. While these headphones have good bottom end, they are not a bass monster. I wanted to add a little more oomph to the bottom. Yeah. I really liked them with jazz, Americana, blues, singer-songwriter. These headphones really excel in the vocal ranges, right? Would I use them with EDM? Yes. Without a doubt, I tried some EDM tracks because I wanted to see about the bass, and again, that's why I gravitated towards the Black Dragon in that situation. But if I had something that was really warm, like a 300B, or I changed out the tubes in the Inspire to make it really lush sounding, the silver might be a great choice. So it really comes down to your uses, right? No right or wrong, but the Black Dragon premium headphone cable is going to be my choice case and what I'm going to use.
Yeah, I agree with the pairing with the TX 701N. The Black Dragon really just kind of tightened everything up. But again, I do want to reiterate, right? Like, everyone hears differently. Yeah. No two people are going to have the same hearing or same listening preference or same genre preferences. I think the Lyric 2 is going to sound phenomenal with any genre out there. Like you said, it really just comes down to what gear do you have? What do you like to listen to? Yeah. So if you have any questions in that regard, feel free to contact us. You can get in touch with Drew, and we'll be happy to make personalized recommendations for for all your gear and whatever you're looking for.
And we're planning on doing a portable headphone cable that's a lot more flexible than our main cable stays. So for portable use, you may want to go with that cable. Look for that soon on the website. We'll be adding that, or the full-size headphone cables when you're using it more in an office or home environment.
Great.
Did you just launch a new cable?
He did.
Yeah.
And last but not least, how does the Lyric 2 compare to other headphones in the same price range?
So the obvious choice to compare this to is the Dan Clark E3 headphones, right? Same exact price point, both planar, both closed back, both do some porting, both are using that QWRM, if I get that acronym correct one of these days. But very, very different sounding headphones. They do not sound alike, so actually a great comparison. I can't really say I prefer one or the other. They both have their appeals. Again, very different sounding, so they have their uses. I could easily see owning both of those for different characteristics. I mean, these are, like we've said, much warmer. Dan is very big on trying to match the Harman curve to try and get as many people to love and enjoy his headphones. It's not on the forward side, it's not on the warm side, it's somewhere in the middle. It's very appealing. I think it does a better job of appealing to a person that listens to much more genres of music. Again, you can use any headphone for any genre, but they excel at better, sometimes at better things. Theirs is a little more broader category of genres, if you will. The E3s are a little bit harder to drive, so you've got to have a more portable device to drive them. They are meant for portable, and there are portable devices out there that work well with them, but I think they excel even more than the Lyric on a home rig. That's where I would probably use it, and I'd probably use the Meze more for portable use because I can use it with just about any portable device. It's very efficient and easy to drive. So, that's the most logical one for me to compare it to. Both great winners, no losers here, just different choices.
Yeah, definitely check out our review online. I talk about the Empyrean 2 and how that kind of compares to the overall Meze sound as well. So check that out. The bottom line is that the Lyric 2 is a true generational improvement over the original, providing a cleaner and more refined sound, a larger sound stage and presence with the new wooden ear cups, and made with the same amazing quality that Meze Audio premium headphones are known for. It's hands down a top pick from us at Moon Audio, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
It's great for anyone who's looking for a premium closed-back planar magnetic listening experience, and you won't be disappointed. So what did we miss? Ask us your questions about the Lyric 2 below, and we'll do our best to reply. We'll include a link to the full blog in the description. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe for more audiophile content just like this. Got a question? Drop a comment, and as always, thanks for watching.
Take care. See you soon.